8.4 is on eutrophication. You want to be able to explain the environmental effects of excessive use of fertilizers and detergents. To begin with, eutrophication is actually a natural process. It's basically the aging of a lake. Over a long period of time, lakes will begin to accumulate nutrients, so we start to see a difference in the biotic factors, like what kind of plants and animals are there. We see a lot more plant growth, and decrease in dissolved oxygen, so maybe not as much fish because they can't survive in that kind of environment. We also might see sediment buildup just over time. Sediment that gets into the lake, just gets higher and higher and higher. So maybe eventually that lake might just poof, go away. So this is a natural process. It just takes a long time. Well, cultural eutrophication is when we make that process happen a lot faster because of rapid intake of nutrients that comes from our stuff. Things like agricultural runoff, wastewater release, items such as those. So it causes this rapid increase of nutrients. And for the same reason, we might add fertilizers to our plants or to our crops. It makes plants grow really well. Algae respond the same way. When you have runoff that contains nutrients, it causes a rapid algae bloom or algal bloom. They mean the same thing. Well, everything that is living has to die eventually. It is the circle of life. So when you have a lot of algae that have grown, that means you're also going to have a lot of algae that's going to die. And when it dies, there's aerobic bacteria or microbes in the water that will decompose the algae. However, that word aerobic means that they need to have oxygen in order for it to do that. So they use up the dissolved oxygen in the water. And now, because there's so much to decompose, they're using a lot of that dissolved oxygen. So we see those levels drop. And the lack of dissolved oxygen, therefore, means that anything that needs oxygen is going to die off. So like our fish and other aquatic organisms that need that oxygen, they can no longer thrive in that area. So that's why we call them dead zones, because we see, a lot of death happen in that area. But if you're an anaerobic thing, you're cool. This is just to show in a picture form, we have excessive use of fertilizers. It gets run off into the nearby water source. And then we have increased algae growth, therefore increased decomposition by that dead algae. And therefore, the bacteria taking all that oxygen and it decreases. And this is just another one specifically showing how that dead zone is created in the Gulf of Mexico. Because, like I said, not everything is going to die. If you're anaerobic, you cool. A better name would be Hypoxic Waterway. So those are bodies of water that are low in dissolved oxygen. And if there's nothing, no water, or no water, wow. No dissolved oxygen, I think it's anoxic. To solve this, the best way is to prevent it in the first place, using fewer fertilizers, controlling animal waste, update septic systems to reduce nutrients. So not a lot of, even city managed water, not a lot have that stage that takes out the nitrates and the phosphates. Some do, but it's a slow process. But if it's already a problem, it can be remediated by applying herbicides, deepening the lakes, pumping oxygen to the bottom, putting in plant-eating insects. So even though I talked about algae, another side of this is rapid plant growth. So a lot of, lily pads, and other aquatic plants. And finally, just for a little vocab, oligotrophic is the name that we give to the younger lakes that are, they have a lot of dissolved oxygen. They're very clear. They have a low amount of nutrients. And eutrophic is the older lakes. And then mesotrophic is, somewhere in the middle.